Meeting is being recorded.
That's one.
Good morning and welcome everybody to our annual grant qualification seminar. As you know, this is a requirement of our Rotary Foundation to ensure that we're all being good stewards of our Rotary Foundation grant money. And big thank you to our facilitators this morning, facilitators and trainers, as well as to all of our district Rotary Foundation committee for their leadership throughout the year, helping us encourage us to donate to the Rotary Foundation and to help us as we receive our grant money and apply that to projects in our communities at home to increase our impact, as well as through our global grants to increase our impact worldwide. So thanks for taking time out of your busy Saturday and to represent your club to qualify for our district grants. Thank you, and welcome.
Yeah, Patty, you want to share your screen and then Benson can give us a start.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
So can everybody see the globe?
Yeah, nice globe. It looks
Great.
really eco-friendly, doesn't it? Yeah, really cool.
Thank you, Benson.
Okay, so good morning again, folks. Thanks for coming. We have almost 60 people on the call today, which means there's a lot of people hanging out on Saturday with Rotary. So we're gonna click through these slides. There's a bunch of them. There's a lot of material on the slides. Don't panic. You will get these slides. You can review them. Because you know, we get a lot of information anxiety a lot because there is a lot. So let's launch into this thing. So next slide, Patty. Okay, so here's our agenda today. Our learning plan is we're going to do an overview of the grant program. We're going to talk about grant funding, like where does the money come from, how to qualify for grant funds. There's a very succinct way to do that. What the grant agreements look like. There's a memorandum of understanding, the MOU. Some of you have been around a while. Know this is a pretty familiar document. There's also the addendum and the financial management plan. So we'll have all that available for you. And of course, the resources you're going to need to really dig into this. Okay, next slide. All right, so here's going to be the key takeaways. This is kind of cool that we tell you what you're going to take away before you take it away. So we'll make it easy for you. The use of what these grants are for, the purposes described on the application that was approved, how you can and cannot spend money on these grants, the use of funds by May 31st. So if you have a project out there, we're asking you to finish it by May 31st. And then if you don't, return the funds back to D5000 as soon as possible, if not used. So the disbursements are authorized by two people via a voucher or a grant check, and Naomi will dig into that more. And that grant funds cannot be carried over to another year, although I think that they're looking at that. I think our council on legislation is looking at that. Then the complete qualification checklist, go through that by January 31st. And if you're not already doing it, most of you guys are doing it, that you need to maintain a separate grant account for all disbursements from this account, and to keep the documents and your records for 5 years. Okay, next slide. Okay, let's everybody take a deep breath and we'll launch into the dates. Okay, so fall 2024, which is right now, 2 members in your club attend the grant management training, which is happening right at this very moment. All right, so by January 31st, 2025, we're going to upload these 3 documents. We're going to talk about them today. That MOU, which is the Memorandum of Understanding, the addendum, and the financial plan. There's 3 of them. And the IRS filing confirmation of tax return and the GET for the year ending 6/30/24. We'll talk about those documents. The president for your 25-26 year, which is your PE, and the 26-27, which is your PN. Now, if you don't have that, the president can sign that document. Okay, there's no president, PN, the current president can sign. So I just said that. All right, so by May 31st, 2025, the grant report submitted for this year's grant. June 15th, the grant application for Rotary 2025-26 is submitted, so that's for next year. And then by July 15, 2025, our district submits the grant to RI for approval. And then in August, hopefully we get all our money back and we start distributing funds to the clubs. So all the documents are emailed right there to grants at rotaryd5000.org. And the forms can be found on our website. There's tons of them. So have that. Okay. And then types of different grants. So the Rotary Foundation offers grants that support humanitarian projects, scholarships, vocational training teams. And so here's an overview of those grants. So there's global grants that support large international projects with long-term sustainable outcomes in one or more of Rotary's areas of focus. We'll talk about those later. They range from 30,000, they're minimum 30,000, and then they go up to a max of 400,000. Now, district grants fund smaller scale short-term projects that address your immediate needs in your community or abroad. And it's usually 15% of your DDF funds, which is district designated funds. All right, the disaster response grants, which we're all aware of, especially here in Hawaii. They support disaster relief and recovery efforts through grants from the Rotary Disaster Response Fund, and the max is 25,000. And then there's also programs of scale grants, which support Rotary member-led evidence-based programs that have already demonstrated some success. So it's 2 million over 3 to 5 years. Okay. Next slide. And then so here's some kind of grant statistics if you're wondering how all this stuff comes together. So district grants, we had 485 grants for $30 million. That's all the districts, not ours. Global grants, we had 1,285 grants for $82 million. We had disaster response grants, which was 105 grants for $4 million, and then programs of scale grants, which were $2 million over during 23-24. Okay, I think that concludes my portion of the festivities for today. So I'm gonna turn it over to Patty, and Patty gets to continue the fun. Go for it, Patty.
Thank you. Thanks, Benson. I wanted to just talk a little bit about how does this money come to us? You know, the annual fund contributions that our clubs and our club members give are transformed into grants and programs, and these are the monies that support our I guess our humanitarian service, and it's called the SHARE system, SHARE. You see right there. And we basically, Rotary basically uses a 3-year funding cycle. So money comes in, it allows the foundation to invest those donations and then use the earnings for administrative and fundraising costs. And after the 3-year investment period, the donation is then allocated back to the districts. It's a very simplistic explanation I'm giving you, but that's basically how it comes to us. For more detail, this is a breakdown of the grants that came in say the 3 years ago, 21-22 year, 263,000, almost 264,000. There was an administration fee, and then about half, 48%, went to the World Fund, and 48% are to the district designated fund. That's our grants. They come back to us. They are available this year for these projects. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this unless somebody has a question, but there are formulas and match and no match grants. And as you can see, the money has come back. Questions on that? I'm just going very quickly. Okay. So if you look at the $125,000 that has been allocated to District 5000 this year, this is the breakdown. This is where the monies have gone. Polio Plus, 12,500. The Peace Centers, RCIS, about 2,000. District grants, more than 60,000. Global grants, about the same, almost 63,000, and there is an administration fee. So that all adds up to the 125. And finally, you may have seen this, or you will be seeing this, I guess. This is the breakdown. Now, this again is this Rotary year, 24-25, but we wanted to show it to you as a sample. For instance, we'll just take the first one, Ala Moana. There's some history. There's an average of these 3 years, and then percent of total. So of the 122,000 that has been allocated, Ala Moana is getting almost 5%, and this is the breakdown. So I know that when I first started learning about district grants and grant allocations, this is a very helpful breakdown just to kind of show it to me in black and white. All right. I'm going to go to the next slide and ask Laura to jump in.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's so great to see so many of you up on Saturday morning, and we do appreciate you being here. The reason that we work so hard to make sure that our district and global grants are maintained properly, that you go through this training, which I know by now a lot of you have said, didn't I hear this last year and the year before? Yes, you did. But what we want to do is to show to the Rotary Foundation that we are maintaining our stewardship responsibilities. Because Charity Navigator, who is the organization that actually grades nonprofit organizations, for the last 15 years has given the Rotary Foundation its top 4-star rating. One of the reasons is because 91% of the funds that are donated are actually spent directly on programs and operations. Nothing goes for jet planes and high dinners and stuff like that. So this is why we're here today, is to make sure that we are fulfilling our duties of stewardship. And what is stewardship? Next slide, please. So stewardship is the responsible management and oversight of grant funds. It ensures that funds are used properly and truly benefit the populations in need. You're going to hear some of this over and over again. So we supervise projects using our MOU, our Memorandum of Understanding Guidelines. We implement projects as approved. We report any irregularities, we submit reports, and we retain documents for 5 years, electronic and hard copy. And this is usually the point where I will remind everybody you're supposed to have these. So after this session today is probably a good time for you to go back to your club and find out who has these records for you. Next. Again, the terms and conditions and the detail is all in here. But as Benson said, the district grants fund small-scale, short-term activities. They have to be completed within the Rotary year and reported on within that Rotary year. They address needs in your community and also communities around the world. So as long as you have a good relationship with someone overseas and you know that it can be completed and reported within a year, you're welcome to use these anywhere around the world. These activities align with the Foundation's mission to help Rotary members advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace by improving health, providing quality education, improving the environment, and alleviating poverty. Districts decide which activities they want to support with district grants. Next. Okay, so this is one of the more important slides. Grants cannot fund unrestricted cash donations to a beneficiary or cooperating organization. You can't just write a check to somebody. Continuous or excessive support of any one beneficiary, entity, or community. The purchase of land or buildings. And then a Rotary Club cannot own assets purchased with grant funds. So even if someone else is using them, they have to take ownership of what is being bought. You can't use them for fundraising activities. You can't, we had someone try this one year. You can't use them for expenses related to Rotary events such as district conferences, conventions, institutes, anniversary celebrations, entertainment activities, or project ceremonies. You can't fund public relations initiatives unless they're essential to carrying out the project, and you have to detail that carefully. You also can't pay for project signs. We encourage the signs, but they can't cost more than $1,000. They can't pay for the operating, administrative, or indirect program expenses of another organization. So you can't just write a check to the Salvation Army or food bank, and activities for which the cost has already been incurred. And we'll go into that in a little more detail. Okay. Okay, the guidelines, as we have already gone through, they have to relate to the Foundation's mission. You can't use grant funds to reimburse clubs or districts for activities that were already in progress or completed. And if you need to change your grant after the grant is approved, you have to send in new paperwork, and we have to approve that before you can actually use the money. You have to comply with the conflict of interest policy for program participants so that you can't have the major portion of your grant going to a Rotarian, and follow Rotary's privacy statement, which means we have to protect everybody's personal data and make sure that we have their permission to use their images, etc. And again, we really want you to include signs on or near projects. It's some of our best public relations, but again, they can't cost more than $1,000. Okay. Okay. The qualification checklist, Benson went through this really well. So we're just going to go into some of the forms in a little bit greater detail. These are those dates again. So he's already reviewed them. So we'll go on to the next slide. So 3 forms that are signed by the president-elect and president nominee, if available. Okay. First is the Memorandum of Understanding, then the District 5000 addendum to the TRF Club Qualification Memorandum of Understanding, and the Financial Management Plan. Okay. Next. So the Memorandum of Understanding. And when you get this form to sign, please read it. The district officers have already signed a memorandum of understanding with Rotary International. So now and to get our one district grant, that's the way it works. It's one grant with Rotary International. So then we turn around with all the participating clubs and ask them to sign the same forms so that that gets that stewardship down to the level where it needs to be. Same thing, club qualification, it's got the club officer responsibilities, which says that your officers are responsible for making sure that this stewardship is carried out. It's asking for a financial management plan, but the good news, the district has given you a template to fill out for the financial management plan. Talks about the bank account requirements, the 2 authorizing signatures for disbursements, the report on use of grant funds, how they were spent, document retention for 5 years, and reporting the misuse of grant funds. And there is 0 tolerance on that. And that's why I, as stewardship chair, exist. Next. So the District 5000 addendum to the club qualification documents is because that memorandum of understanding that we signed with RI says that you have to have a separate bank account for every club-sponsored grant. And this was actually written for the global grants, and that is still true for every global grant. If you control the money, anyway, Naomi will go into greater detail in the global grants. But this addendum allows you to have one bank account for all of your district grants, because we have some clubs who will do 6 or 7 grants, so it can all go into the one account. Okay, next. And the financial management plan, again, this is another template that is being provided to you. Please read it and make sure that you understand what it's saying. You have to maintain a dedicated bank account. And by now, every single one of you do have one. The grant funds are deposited into that, and all the expenses have to be dispersed from that fund. Club cash gets transferred into the district grant account, and then you have to pay your project-related expenses from that account. We ask that everybody please try to make the title of your account the Rotary Club of East Honolulu TRF District Grants account, or something that will show that it is an account for your district grant. A couple of the accounts said something like foundation, and it was not. It needs to be easier and well defined so that we know what it is. The disbursements do require 2 signatures, either on a disbursement authorization form or on the check itself. Okay, and then the club, again, reminder, will retain these receipts and invoice copies for 5 years from the date of approval of the final report. Okay. Important words here. Any DDF in that district designated funds received will be immediately deposited in the district grant account and dispersed only to fund approved district grants. So we are trying to get the accounts put into directly into the bank for all of the people, but some of you do require that we send a check still. If you get that check, don't hold it, put it into the account so that we know it's there, so that it will be cleared and it's accounted for. And for district grant projects, if the club is contributing cash to the project, they have matching dollars in there. You need to put your contributed cash in that district grant account. And then you pay those expenses only from that account. So it's always important to let your treasurer know which account to be paying from. And most critically, you do not disperse any funds until your application is approved. All of the DDF is in your account. Your club contributions for matching are deposited in your account. Once everything is there, then you can pay for the project expenses. I know some of you order dictionaries early. It's fine to order them. You just can't pay the invoice until everything is in your account. And then In order to make sure that we are following the guidelines and that Rotary International is going to love us, we do have an audit team, and Ron Young and his audit team will audit 15 to 20% of district grants each year. And these are the documents you will need. You might want to even make a copy of this just so you can make sure you have them. You need your application and your final report. You need your current bank signature cards, bank statements showing the funds coming in, canceled checks, check registers, and importantly, paid invoices, receipts, the authorization form, if that's what you're using for your two signatures, and then a bank reconciliation is what they'll be looking for. You have all this, the audit goes very quickly. Thank you. Okay, Patty, back to you.
Thank you, Laura. Lots of information there. Just want to show you the disbursement authorization voucher, which we request you use for any invoices and expenses related to the grants. You know, my club uses a form very similar to this for all expenses. So we just are in the habit of that. Now here's some new news. We have a new process. So I'm asking you in advance to work with us, and I know you do anyway, but work with us this year because we are going online. And it's the first year, and as you know, we all know, first year of anything can be challenging. It's not a hard process at all. And it's actually I was telling Naomi, it's in the kind of the mode of what is happening across the country with nonprofit organizations and grant applications. So anyway, we are going to be using, we will be using the grant module, what we're calling the grant module. It's on Club Runner. Our documents will be uploaded directly to Club Runner, the grant module, instead of being sent via email to the person on the other side. The application also will be online, and as well as reporting. So we are trying to use technology in a much more productive way. I'm going to, on this next slide, just show you kind of a snapshot of what the grant module looks like. You go in through our District 5000 website, log in, of course, and you're going to pull up through grants and then through grant documents, this, I guess I call it a portal, but this module. And each of you, as you can see, each club has its own folder. And then down below, you also see at this point, we have loaded in the 3 documents we keep talking about. So much easier accessibility, I think, a way to download the forms and fill them out and then upload them easily. And then we can go in and verify. So we will go into more detail, but we really did want to tell you about this. We're quite excited about it. There's another snapshot of submitting a grant request. So, you know, you're in that portal, and on the left side, you can submit a grant request. That's what we're looking at now. So sorry, go back to this one. And again, it's, you know, we're used to using that Excel application, the application that's in Excel. And now we're going to be doing it online. And here is, remember that form I was showing you, that allocation report. You know, this is how we're going to be matching up. You know, how much is a no match and how much is a match and how much your project will be allocated. Well, the funds that your project will have your club will have to be allocated to your project or projects. And finally, I think this goes on to Naomi. Next one.
Okay. Just want to mention that only the people who go through training will be able to upload the documents and apply online. So that is why it's really important for us to know who is going through this training. And if clubs don't have the 2 people, we will have another session where you can have your 2 people attend this training. Because again, only the ones who came to this training will be the ones who can upload documents and do the application. Okay, so the final report is done by this year's team. It's for this year, and it's due 2 months after the project is done, but no later than May 31st. And the reason why we need it May 31st is we need to make sure that money is used this Rotary year. It cannot be carried over. It needs to be used this year. So May 31st is the final report. We do need the receipts so we can have on record how the money was spent. Okay, so the final report will be online as well. Well, you upload it, and it's the form, the information that you uploaded, and you're going to mark it as the final report. Okay, so sorry, it's not going to grants@rotary.d5000.org. It will go online to the portal, like Patty says. We're going to call it the portal. Okay, Patty? Okay.
Next slide.
Okay, so let me talk about, well, before I start with global grants, I wanted to say for the audit, because you have the 5-year records already done, when the auditor says, hey, sorry, you're the one that's going to be audited, all of those records should be in your report already, in your folder, 5 years worth. So you want to make sure that whoever is responsible, that we're able to get those records from by the auditor, and we need to do that by late September. Okay, so please, when the auditor says we need to look at your records, please respond. Okay, so for global grants, right now that's the hot topic because the global grant pledge is due November 1st. Okay, so this is the form that you're going to be using, and this is signed by this year's president and next year's. So the current president and the PE signed this, and the reason is some of these grants don't get funded until the following year. And so that's why we need the PE to know you got to keep that money aside that you pledged, the club cash, keep it aside so when that global grant is ready to go, that money is available to send in. So you send the pledge in, tell us what global grant you want to put your allocated funds to, put the DDF, and the DDF needs to be matched 100% with club cash. So if you've got $1,000 DDF that you want to put towards the Lahaina project, for instance, you need to match it with club cash. So if your club does not want to participate in any global grant, we would like to have 100% of our clubs participating. So if you are not participating, if you can at least don't give $100 of club cash and $100 DDF to the Lahaina project, that would be awesome. So Ted wants to have a goal of 100% of our clubs participating this year. Okay, you can have more than one global grant that your club wants to support. So you just put your amounts in this form. If you have more than 3, just do a supplemental page. But those papers, your pledge does need to go to grants@rotary.d5000.org. Okay, so this is only for global grants that we have in the global grant page. So there are 4 grants that we're supporting. If your club is going to support a global grant that's not listed, so say for instance, like Pearl Harbor has a connection with the club in Uganda, and they want to give $346 or whatever to that club, you can put that into this form, because if anytime you're using DDF, district designated funds, we need to have this form because we need to put that into the grant center that we're using the district's district DDF for that project. Okay, so can you take some quick questions? Carrie, you have a quick question?
Yes, could you repeat about Ted's? He said he wanted 100% of the clubs to support. Which one again? Was that the Lahaina tree?
Yes.
Okay. And how much did you want from us?
We're asking at least $100 from each club, and we'd like to see 100% participation. This is another way that we can support and enable our Maui fire survivors from all of us. And in conjunction with this, we're also organizing 2 work days on Maui. The dates will be April 25th and 26th. April 26th, we'll be working with our partner Tree Covery in repotting the growing trees that are all non-invasive trees. As these trees continue to grow and as our Maui fire survivors get to the point of rebuilding, as well as public spaces rebuilding, then we expect to be able to help plant the fully grown trees in the next 1 to 2 years. But in April, it'll be repotting. On April 25th, then we'll also work with a number of our Maui Rotary nonprofit partners, particularly ones that are building tiny house communities for the Maui fire survivors. We had a group come in from District 5280 in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, made a big impact there, but there's still going to be a lot of ongoing needs. And so this will be, in addition to contributing the $100, also an opportunity for any of us in District 5000 to come that weekend of April 25th and 26th to hands-on work and support the tree growth and replanting project, as well as tiny house communities.
Okay, so I just want to make sure if we donated 100, we matched 100, and then there's that, is the RI Rural Fund included in that? So that $100 switches, or that flips over to $280 if I'm doing my math correctly. Is that how that works even for you? Because I know I'm helping Thailand. I was talking to David, so 250 is going to flip over to 700. We'll match to 250, and then the 0.80 cents on the dollar on the RI World Fund. Am I getting all this correct? Because this is all new to me still. But is that how that works, Naomi?
Yeah, go ahead, Naomi.
Okay. Whenever we use your DDF for a global grant, the World Fund will kick in another 80% of that amount, the DDF, to that project.
Okay, so if I can get you $250, Ted, we're gonna flip it over to and make it $700 for you. So that's my goal. You got RCK 250 because we have money, but we don't have a fundraiser this year, but we are diligently working one for 25, 26. So we're just going to nickel and dime it this year. The difference will go back to district, but I'm going to help Thailand and Lahaina. I just want to let you know that RCK's got you, even though
Okay.
it's tiny.
So Kara, just make sure you fill out that pledge form and send it in.
I will.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
David and I are going to work on it together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Iko Kakako.
Hey, yeah, I've got 3 quick questions. The first question is just to confirm that we can use the funds that we've raised into the foundation account that are in like kind of the ones allocated to us for our matching cash funds.
Right, so look at the allocation spreadsheet and the amount that's in your line. That's the amount that you're allocated for the global grant. So that's the line on the very right-hand side. So you can use all of it or partial, but it needs to be matched with club cash that you raised, 100% of that VDF.
And just to confirm, because we have accounts that go and are managed by Sharon, I think is her name, or Shannon maybe,
So
to find out how much we have in those particular accounts.
Okay, so the district foundation is separate. It's a separate entity. If you have funds in there, you would need to pull it out from the district foundation account and then put it into your club grant account as your matching amount.
Okay, but we can do that.
Yes,
Okay.
but you
Um,
got to put it into your club's cash account, your grant account.
Naomi,
Yes.
I thought that had to go into your club's account, and then from there, from your club's account to the grant account, because it has to come from your club. It's coming
Okay.
down the foundation district and goes direct to the club that doesn't qualify under the interpretation of Rotary Foundation. You have to
Okay.
your
Okay.
club first and kind of
Thank
check
you.
back.
So if you have money in the district's foundation, it has to go to your club account first and then into your club's grant account. Okay, Tim?
Thank you. So our club wants to support 3 of the 4 projects and wondering about filling out that form. Can we, two of the clubs or 2 of the projects our club wants to just use our matching funds for. So we wouldn't have DDF funds noted for that project. We would only note matching funds. Does that make sense, or how?
No.
Okay.
No,
Explain.
for global grants, so district grants is a little different, right? Because you have some that is not no match and some matching. For global grants, to use the DDF, you need to match it 100%. So if you have 3 projects you want to support, your form, your pledge form, is going to list the 3 global grant numbers, tell us how much DDF and how much club cash you have towards that grant. But make sure that your club cash needs to be equal to DDF or higher. You can give more if you want to, but to use DDF for a global grant, you need to match it 100%.
And Naomi, there might be a little bit of confusion here. For your global grant, you're waiting until the person who has put the grant together asks you for the funds. Once all of the paperwork is done and everything is approved by Rotary International, then they will come back to the club and say, okay, send your matching funds directly into Rotary International. It does not go into your district grant account.
Yeah.
That's totally separate for district grants only.
Understand. Really appreciate the clarification.
Thanks,
And,
Tim.
and folks, you may want to know that the timeline on that is usually 3 months or longer before they're going to ask you for the funds. 3 months is pretty aggressive. So if you're looking at raising the money for this matching on the global grant, you still have some time to do so, but you do need to know that that's allocated and required before the grants can be funded.
Okay, Susan Kakako, Iko, did you have another question?
Yes, so can you confirm that the amount that we have in the far right of that spreadsheet is the amount that we have regardless of what we've used for our other district grants? So it's separate from whatever individual small projects that we're doing this year, correct?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let's go back to that allocation spreadsheet, because it is kind of confusing when you see one column says 20%, one column says 30%, and then you have the global grant. So remember, Patty had that slide that says 50% of what you gave 3 years ago when we take an average. So 50% is for district grants, 50% is for global grants of the amount that you have allocated. Okay, so of the district amount that you have for district grants, 20% of that total is for no match, meaning you can use that without matching it with club cash. Okay, so if your club had no cash and you wanted to use the no match amount, you just use the no match. You don't have to put any money into it. Okay, the 30% is where you're going to match it with club cash. So in this case with Ala Moana, they can use 1,213 without matching it at all with club cash. But in order to use the 1,820, they need to match it 100%. So when you match the 1,820 and then with club cash, and then you have no match, the total amount becomes 4,853 for the project. Okay, so that's the district grant side. And then on the right-hand side is the global grant. So that's at 50% of your amount that's allocated, and you use that for the global grants. Okay, so, yep, sorry. So if you need help with determining how much you have allocated, how much cash you need to put in, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you with those numbers. Okay.
Simply stated, just remember that on the global grant, the far right side, 100% of what you are allocating needs to be matched. So if you're doing a partial or all of it, that needs to be matched.
And you don't need to use all of it if you don't want to. Okay. Val, do you have a question? Val Wang?
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. Yeah, thanks, Naomi. I just wanted to give kind of a little tip to all the presidents on this call so they don't make the same mistake I made last year that Naomi, you graciously helped me through. So I silly thought you could put more money in. So, you know, you have your no match and your match. And I thought if as long as you met the match, you could put more money in and it wouldn't impact it. But from an accounting standpoint and a reporting standpoint, it's really important that whatever you put in, you're not over matching, and that your no match is really treated as a separate fund. So I don't know if anyone has run into that issue, but it kind of held up our application. So just wanted to share my mistake with the rest of the district so you guys don't make the same one.
Thank you. Carol, you have another question?
Yes, it was going back to the previous presentation. It was about the do's and don'ts about the grants when he said don't fund, or she mentioned something about funding something over or for longevity, you know, that sentence. I just need clarification. Like, what is it? How long is too long to keep doing the same project year after year after year? I guess I just need a guideline.
Okay. That's a really good question and really hard to answer because it's up to every club how they're going to be using their funds. So the whole idea is that when you do a project, you want that project to be sustainable. So if you're giving to one entity, the same entity every year, you're not really sustaining them. So it's kind of a fine line. And you can ask maybe Laura or Dave for clarification.
But the other part to that is because we know we have clubs who have been giving dictionaries to the same school for many years. And that school has come to rely on the fact that their third graders are going to be getting these dictionaries or books or whatever it is from the club. And we have never had any problems with, knock wood, Rotary International as far as coming back and kicking those back to us. I think what Rotary International is looking at is if there is like one village that is each year getting funds from the same people doing the same thing, that they're never going to become self-sustaining. So it's a matter of degree. But, you know, if you're asking about things like dictionary projects or if you were helping one family build things, that might come up as a question mark.
Mm-hmm. And also you can argue that every year it's a different group of third graders.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Val, you have a question? Okay, maybe not. It's when you look at your grant applications, when you're using your funds, you do want to make sure that the club is in agreement on how you're going to use those forms. There was a question on the 3 documents, if you can review them. If you go to the website, the district website, under district grants, the 3 forms are uploaded in there to review. And also when you are able to get into the grants module, the portal, you'll see the templates there as well. Okay, but we will send out the 3 documents to everyone and the allocation spreadsheet again so that you have that in your mailbox, your email box. Okay, wanted to go back to the use of funds. When we were saying unrestricted, a gift card and it says unrestricted cash, right? Cash could be a check or gift cards. So if you've got a gift card that is open, like a Visa gift card, it's unrestricted. So that is not allowed. Okay. So if you're giving a gift card, try and restrict the use of that money as much as possible. So for instance, if you give a gift card to Foodland, it's restricted to what Foodland, is for food. Or when you give it, you say that it's for Fisher for supplies. So just keep that in mind that gift cards just by itself is unrestricted. Okay, so Patty, let's go back to the screen that we were on. So it was on global grants. Okay, good. Go to the next one. Okay, so you want to make sure on the global, we're talking about the pledge form, right? You want to make sure that you keep a copy of that commitment form, because if the grant has not been funded this year and it's going to carry on to next year or even the next year, you want to have that commitment form online, because in your files, because the budget for next year needs to account for that amount that you've pledged. Okay, so that commitment is good until the grant is either funded or it's canceled. So just remember to keep track of your pledges. Okay. So what's the difference between a district grant and a global grant? A global grant starts at 30,000. It should be for a foreign project. So when we're talking about Lahaina, we have foreign partners, and for them, it's a foreign country, right? So sometimes they call it as a reverse grant because we're doing it here. But actually, that Lahaina grant is a global grant. Global grants, you need to have a host club in the country that you're going to do it in. It's sustainable, measurable. Okay, so global grants, there's a lot more that is entailed in doing that global grant. So you want to get some help from the International Service Committee when you're even thinking about doing a global grant. District grants, there's no minimum as long as you're using your allocation. And you can use that for a foreign project. And it's a lot easier because you don't have to get that international partner, and it can be for $100 or $1,000. So Kara, for instance, did a project to buy PE equipment and monitors for schools in Nepal, and that was using district grant funds. That was $1,000. So you don't need that partnership. It's the sustainability is not required because it's a one-time thing. But it's the measurability is required because you want to see how many people that were helped with, how many beneficiaries that were helped with that. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, some takeaways. Oh, so remember that whenever we do things for grants, you're going to look at the 7 areas of focus. It needs to be within these areas of focus. So even for the district grant, we need you to identify what area it's in. So please remember that we do need to look for these 7 areas of focus. Okay. Requirements for global grants. There's a lot of requirements. So one of the new things is that if you're doing a global grant, someone in your club needs to take that grant management seminar every year to qualify. That's a new requirement. And hey, Dave, it's up to the district to keep track of that. So we need to make sure every global grant has someone taking that session. Okay.
I need a raise.
You got it. Okay, so go to the site page on the district website. It's the global grant. So when you go under resources, you can find the global grant and district grant page, and all of the forms are there and instructions. Then the Learning Center, you've got a lot of great information. We've got the Zone 2627 expert hub that you can ask of help from these people who are subject matter experts. And Dennis, you have a question.
Yeah, Naomi, just real quick before we run out of time, can you just give me what are programs of scale grants? We talked about that way back at the beginning, $2 million. Can you just describe what those are?
Okay, so yeah, they started this about maybe 4 years ago, programs of scale, because Rotary really wants to make an impact with a project. Okay, so the first one was on trying to eradicate malaria in Africa. Okay, so these start at $2 million, and I think the malaria one actually turned into a $6 million project, and it spanned for 3 to 5 years. So programs of scale is scalable, but it starts at 2 million, but they're large projects. Okay, so it's really impactful projects.
Okay, thanks.
So they only do one a year, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so upcoming seminars we've got on November 2nd. Please encourage everyone in your club to go to this session on the Rotary Foundation, because we're going to not only do 101, the basics of the Rotary Foundation, but we're going to go in depth in all of the programs, you know, like endowment fund, legacy fund, recognition. So it's going to be a lot of really great information. Everything you wanted to know just about will be in this seminar, and that's why it's an hour and a half on November 2nd. Okay, so takeaways, I think that's this last slide, Patty. Okay, again, we want to remind everyone that when you use grant funds, we need to make sure we're following the rules with the terms and conditions, and the terms and conditions for district grant, global grants is on those pages. So if you want to take a look at what is allowable, what is not. But please remember that when you put in the application, you're saying what the purpose is of those grant funds. And that is what the grant needs to be on. So when we get the final report and it's different, we've got to go back to Rotary International and get it approved. Every grant needs to be approved by Rotary International. So what happens is we get all the applications, we summarize it, we put into one big one, a spreadsheet. And so we usually have like 100 different applications that we're listing down. Rotary takes a look at that one spreadsheet, and they'll go line by line to make sure it's okay. So sometimes they come back with questions. They may come back with a question on RILA. Do we have background checks? Do we have enough chaperones? They may ask about scholarships. Who is it open to? Is it restricted? So remember that the purpose that you put on your application is the purpose you need to use the funds on. That's why when we look at the receipts, it needs to refer to that project. Okay, don't spend the project funds until you got the grant money in your account. And the reason is, for charities, they have this rule that if you spend the money before, and this is what some of them say, you didn't need the money from the grant. And so Rotary has this rule that you need to make sure you don't spend the money, don't have receipts, don't give us receipts that are dated before the grant, district grant was approved. Okay, use the funds by May 31st. Okay, if you don't use it, you need to return it as soon as possible so we can reallocate it to someone else. That's why we might have a second round of leftover money. So you can't carry it over. So use that money that year that the money is for. Okay, disbursement, you want to have 2 people authorized, either on the voucher or the check. And that's even for your regular club accounts. It should be authorized by 2 people. Okay, grant funds cannot be carried over again, saying that it cannot be carried over to the next year. If you've got more than one club that is doing a project, each club needs to do their own application, because your allocated amount is per club. So even though you have a joint multi-club project, you break it down by per club. Okay, complete your application checklist by January 31st, please. And it's because we need to know who's qualified, because when the spending committee, the foundation spending committee comes together and decides how much we're going to be giving to the clubs, we need to know who's qualified. Okay, remember to have a separate club grant account for all disbursements. It's not your club foundation account, it's your club grant account. And then make sure you keep the documents for 5 years. Okay, Patty, is that the last screen? Oh, okay. So
Naomi, can you
yes.
possibly let people know about when they would expect to have the funds released for district grants, so that they know when they might be expecting it for allocation to their projects?
Okay, so for next year, we would like to have the grant applications uploaded by June 15th. And the reason is we're going to make sure we're going to vet those applications first before we put it into that big spreadsheet for Rotary International. We want to get it into Rotary International's website in July. Okay, but they're not going to give us the money until we've finished our final grant report for the year before. So final grant report is done, we get that approval, then they're looking at our new grant application, all of the new applications for that Rotary year, and then they'll give us the funds. So hopefully we will get the funds in late July or early August, because there are some clubs who need the money at the beginning of the school year, for instance. So if your club is not ready to do that application, you can wait for the second round, but then you won't get your money until maybe October, November. Okay, so that's the kind of the cadence. And so we need everyone's help in getting the final reports in and the new applications in, because we don't want to hold up that the applications of Rotary International and then hold up everybody's money. So if you're late on it, we're still going to keep to our timeline so that the clubs who did put in their information and need the money will get that money. For instance, you know, Lahaina had, here's Rachel. She had a grant application to get musical band equipment for the school, and they wanted the money before school started. So that's why we needed to get that application, get that money in as soon as possible. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I do, Naomi.
Okay.
It's Jen. So I'm kind of getting a mixed message about the final disbursement form for our district grants. I thought we had to do that form, but I'm kind of hearing now that if we have copies of our signed checks with 2 signatures is okay.
Thanks for that question. So those are 2 different things. So one is the disbursement needs to be authorized by 2 people. So either on that voucher or the check. Okay, that voucher actually is mandatory. We do need you to use that voucher form when you make any kind of disbursement. So when the auditor looks at your records, they're going to be looking for that disbursement form. That is in our foundation policy manual, that we need to use that voucher form. So it is on that page, and then we'll send it out to you. Patty, I think we send that voucher form when we send them the notification that the check was deposited in their account, yeah, to remind them to use that form when they disperse.
Yeah, we're using it. I just kind of felt like I was hearing that it wasn't necessarily mandatory if you have a check, a copy of your check that shows you had 2 signatures.
Oh, no, it is mandatory to use that form.
Okay, and then we turned in a revised request for our district grant. Do you have any idea when we would hear about whether that's approved or not?
For this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Patty, we're gonna look into that, right?
We have to look into that. I'm sorry if it was delayed.
Okay, so we'll get you an answer on when it's approved by Rotary International on that revised application.
Yeah,
okay,
totally bombed. So the other one
Question?
is it's for a mental health apartment complex. They have these awnings for different outside seating areas, and they wanted something more permanent. So now I'm hearing structures and stuff. So I'm wondering if that's not going to work, because we wanted to build them gazebos then for these outside seating areas.
And that's with your district funds. So talk to Patty about that, and we'll get a clarification for you. And so it is for building things, but maybe a gazebo is not a permanent structure. Might be temporary. Might be temporary, so that might be allowable. Awnings is not part of the permanent structure, so that might be allowable as well. So please let Patty know what that is, and we'll get you an answer.
Okay, yeah, I did send it in, so.
Okay, okay. And Dick Moscow, you had something?
Yeah, every year you're supposed to update your checking account for your club and everything else with the banks. And nowadays they want you to make an appointment just to go there and do it, or even to go and get a copy of your signature card. So every year when you do your new signature cards, make a copy of it, put it away, then send it in because it's a pain in the butt trying to go to the bank and get a copy of those cards today.
Yep. So you want to do that in advance. So if you have to make an appointment, you want to get it done before July 1st, hopefully. Okay, other questions? No? Okay, remember that you can always go to the website and look at the what we have posted there, but you always have the resource team available. So Dave Mazran, Patty, Laura, me, we're all available to you. Please do not hesitate to ask questions. Okay, Patty, you want to wrap us up?
Thank you, everyone. This was a great discussion. Thank you for spending a portion of your Saturday morning and absorbing all this information. I saw in the chat that a couple of people were asking about the documents. We'll be, as Naomi had mentioned, we'll be sending those out via email to you, but they are also available on Club Runner. So thank you.
Bye.
Rachel, is that you? Bye, Rachel.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Ahui ho.
Bye. Great.
Okay. Good stuff.
Good job, everybody.